Hello, my name is Janet Phelan and I'm a reporter, and I was invited to speak today on the issue of judicial corruption. But first I want to make a few comments about the nature of what we're dealing with here. We are actually facing a human rights crisis of considerable magnitude in the U.S. We have gathered here today in Tampa to discuss this crisis as it manifests in the lives of the elderly who are under an adult guardianship. However, the human rights crisis is not contained to guardianship and probate court. The crisis, which is insidious and underreported by the media, also manifests in custody proceedings where children are routinely taken from loving and protective homes and given to an abuser. We should have on the screen right now a photo, a screenshot of a book, an excellent book on this subject. So in addition, the crisis manifests itself in a lack of legal culpability when police kill American citizens. According to the last year in which reliable figures were available, which was 2017, the police killed 1,194 people in the US. It is rare that there is any prosecution or sentencing applied to these murders. The ongoing crisis also manifests in the jailings or attempts at criminalization of whistleblowers and journalists such as Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, John Kiriakou, and Karen Melton Stewart. And it manifests in the reports too loud and consistent to ignore from ordinary US citizens who report they are non-consensually placed into weapons testing programs, which are an extension apparently of the programs uncovered and declared discontinued following the Church Committee hearings in the 1970s. In addition, the United States is now producing refugees and political exiles, of which I am one. In a recent year, the United Nations High Commissioner on Refugees reported that approximately 300 American citizens had sought refugee status abroad. Many make no effort, however, to engage the refugee system. So these figures do not reflect the actual numbers of refugees from the US. The circumstances mentioned above largely involve a legal action, a court matter, whether it is a guardianship case, a custody matter, a criminal case, or a refugee claim. Probate court victims are excruciatingly aware that the judges in their cases are largely ignoring the law, and to the detriment, indeed the devastation, of their loved ones in these proceedings. So the question that I posed to myself was, why? Why are the judges ignoring the law? Why are they making decisions which fly in the face of not only legislative authority, but common sense and decency? So it was clear to me that there would have to be some sort of benefit to the judge for so doing. Several years ago, I was writing for the San Bernardino County Sentinel and covering their probate court. I wanted to find out everything I possibly could about their chief probate court judge, Mike Welch. His decisions were absolutely out of this world. So one of the things I did in the process of looking at Mike Welch was I checked out his home loans on the grantor-grantee index for San Bernardino County. And I was very puzzled by what I came across, because Welch's home was entirely paid for, yet he was taking out repetitive loans on the property and paying them back very quickly, a little too quickly given his salary as a judge. So I thought maybe I should look at some other of the judges in San Bernardino County And that's when the light went off in my head. I already knew from my father's journalism that loans could be dirty. Back in the early 60s, when Richard Nixon was running for the California gubernatorial seat, my father, Jim Phelan, published an article in the Old Reporter magazine on what came to be termed the Nixon-Hughes loan. Dick Nixon's brother, Donald, had received a large infusion of money called a loan from the billionaire Howard Hughes. Something of a scandal ensued after this article was published, and Governor Pat Brown publicly credited this article with turning the tide and resulting in his victory. So I approached this work with the understanding that loans could be problematic. The scam that I've uncovered is very simple. Judge X takes out a loan and Mr. Y pays it back. And there are built-in red flags, of course, in the banking industry, and this process detours the red flags. For example, if you take out if you put more than $10,000 into your bank account at any one time, there are red flags that are raised on this. But this detours this completely. It also detours the potential scandal that can result when a political figure finds himself caught with having received a big envelope stuffed full of cash. And this is actually a scandal that took place in Canada some years when Prime Minister Brian Mulroney was caught red-handed with this big envelope. So what I did not expect on doing this research was how pervasive this loan scam actually was. Somewhere around 2/3 of the judges that I have researched have loan histories which are redolent of bribe taking and money laundering. In fact, one could state with some confidence that we have the best legal system that money can buy. This human rights crisis that we're in could also therefore be called a crisis in judicial integrity. Some of the people presenting today will discuss the necessity to change the laws to protect those under guardianship. However, experience has already shown us that changing the laws in California, in Florida, and on the federal level via SB 178 has had no impact whatsoever on the sorts of abuses that judges are inflicting on the elderly and their families. Laws are only words on paper unless they are enforced. It would be incumbent on the legal system, specifically upon judges and prosecutors, to enforce the law. If judges are compromised through bribes, then we are left with only prosecutors. Recently, a group in Washington applied the above-mentioned research process looking at the home loans to a U.S. attorney, Annette Hayes. The group analyzed the loans and came back with the determination that Annette Hayes has loans that are potentially redolent of money laundering. And as a result of their work in Washington, the state of Washington, Hayes quit her job as U.S. attorney. So we are perched on the edge of a most unusual situation here. We are, in fact, living under the most exquisite form of oppression, compounded by the fact that few wish to admit this. The general spin, and it is propaganda and spin now, concerning freedom and justice for all, continues to be assaulted by the facts. We have, in a sense, a battle of memes, a battlefield where information warfare reigns supreme. On the one hand, we can see a well-established legal system which appears to have all the safeguards necessary for justice to be afforded. We have laws running out of our ears and a top-heavy system for courts and appeals. The system is broken. All the victims gathered here today have, in one manner or another, experienced the shock of finding out that the laws are not enforced and their loved ones not protected. Changing laws which no one will then enforce or honor is simply another level of the charade which is called a fair and just legal system. This method of researching judges has, however, had some effect. After research and publication of his loans, we saw where Judge Leonard Holtzaffel, who was a Ohio state judge, stepped down from the case, which had prompted the research on his loans. So at that point, another judge was appointed to the John Rohr case, and his loans were then scrutinized. Immediately, almost immediately, Rohr was set free, and that closed the case. Now, other incidences similar have taken place with this research. In California, the research was done on the special needs trust matter, and the judge who presided over this particular trust. This judge had already issued an arrest warrant for the disabled beneficiary of the trust who was refusing to pay the trustee $30,000, which the beneficiary disputed. So after we researched the judge canceled the arrest warrant as well as revoked the demand for the 30 grand. In a probate case in Riverside, California, the commissioner, one Michael McCoy, who was overseeing the case in question, immediately stepped down from the case after the court was advised that there were questions concerning his loan history. At that point, we felt that we were really on a roll, so we looked at the new judge, who was Sharon Waters. Her loan history was so disturbing that the DA was contacted, and Sharon Waters stepped down from the case without even sitting on a single hearing. And at least one judge has resigned the bench after publication of his loan history. These anecdotes show the potential power and effectiveness of this research. So in summary, I'm going to say we have, in fact, tasked ourselves with reforming a system which is corrupt from the bottom to the top. Our collective experiences indicate that the corruption has infested nearly every locus point where we try to obtain justice. The police, the district attorney, adult protective services, the state DOJs, the FBI, all have been contacted and appealed to and have shown themselves to be utterly disinterested in the law and in our rights. The research method attacks this problem from outside the box. In essence, the research process is akin to revealing that the emperor has no clothes. And I believe it to be one of our strongest tools at hand at this juncture. So those who wish to find out more about the process can go to AAAPG.net and look at the webinar. It's should be on the screen now. And the webinar is entitled Corruption Busters. And I want to state also that I am available to answer any questions about the research process. I can be emailed at my email address, which is jcphelan@protonmail.com, and I stand ready and willing to assist. So I want to thank you very much for having me speak here today, and I hope that, I'm sorry I can't be there, but I hope that the rest of the symposium goes smashingly well, and God bless you all. Bye for now.